Hello and welcome to another episode of Zulf Talks Photography. Today we're speaking to Kris and we're going to be talking about 10-bit video and how that can help you and the benefits. And Kris is quite a person that can help us with this because he shoots with a Panasonic GH5, which we did a video on before, which we'll link to in the cards, and also his channel, so you can go and check out his work. But today he's going to be helping us to explain what 10-bit is and how it can help you. So Kris, if I hand over to you.
All right, Zulf. Well, thank you so much. I really enjoy being on the show with you. And just getting into it, 10-bit versus 10-bit video is, in essence, just something that makes it a lot easier to color grade. Most video is recorded in 8-bit, and I have it on the screen over here because I always forget exactly what it is. But 8-bit is where RGB values are quantized into one of 256 levels. So essentially, there's 256 levels of color that you can go from. Whereas 10-bit raises it up to about 1024, which just
Ooh.
absolutely increases exponentially there. But what does that actually do for video in general? Well, just for example here, like this, how my video looks right now. If this is recorded in 8-bit, so if I tried to do any color grading on it as it is, it would break a lot sooner. You'd start noticing like artifacts or little blocky blotches where it just doesn't look good. My skin tones would start looking muddier, and what 8-bit really means you need to do is you need to get the look that you want in camera like as soon as possible or as easy as possible, because you're not going to have much flexibility in post. Whereas using 8-bit or even 12-bit, or I'm sorry, 10-bit or even 12-bit, which is only really in cinema cameras at this point, but 10 bits getting put in more consumer grade cameras like the GH5, and I think there's a couple Canons that also included it now. But what that gives you is it gives you a lot more flexibility. It lets you do better color grades. It lets you do deeper color grades without breaking the footage itself and making the skin tones look blotchy, making everything look muddy and look bad essentially. Um,
Okay,
so
that's interesting. And during editing, do you find it gives you much workload on your computer if you're doing 10-bit, for example, while it's loading? Is it similar to how you have, for example, 1080p editing and then you've got 4K editing? The processor's having to work harder. So how do you think that copes with the PC in terms of that side of things?
it is it is honestly equivalent. If you're doing 1080p 8-bit
Yeah.
and then you do upgrade to 4K 8-bit,
Mm.
it's going to be the same workload as upgrading 1080p to 8-bit to 1080p to
Okay.
10-bit. It's going to be essentially the same type of jump, but if you're doing 4K 10-bit, it's going to be even higher. It's going to push your computer even further. That's actually why I upgraded my computer, because I was editing off of an old gaming laptop that I had, and it was doing 1080p just fine. I upgraded to 4K, and it was puttering along just fine. But as soon as I started using 10-bit and actually started color grading my stuff more, my computer, it could not handle it. It would edit, but it would be super slow. I'd have to it'd have like a 3 or 4 hour render time just for a 5 minute video clip, and
Wow.
it was just absolutely insane. Little did I know I could use proxies at that point, but I'll get into that in a minute.
Mm.
But after I upgraded my computer, it helped exponentially just because there's so much extra power there. But something that would also help with that would just be using proxies. Every editor is able to use proxies in a certain way, but they are essentially taking the video footage that you have and putting it in a much lower quality for editing. But as soon as you export your video, it uses the original file again.
No.
So essentially uses that 4K 10-bit file, turns it into a 720 8-bit file just for editing purposes. And then once you start color grading or you start editing or start exporting, it brings it right back to the 4K 10-bit.
Okay, that's been excellent. I think you've covered
Mm-hmm.
that nicely. And what we'll do is if I look at some of these examples, because what I've found is if, for example, if I'm shooting a photo and it's
Mm-hmm.
taken in a JPEG, that doesn't store all the information. So would it be a fair comparison to say it's like shooting RAW in a camera for photography where you've got more detail? Is that a fair comparison or is that
It is definitely it's not a one for one comparison because there is raw files for video as well,
oh,
but you don't get that until you're getting like Red or Alexa Ari cameras. But it is probably the closest thing to raw we're going to get from a consumer camera. So, in my opinion, yes, it doesn't let you do everything the raw does, but it is pretty damn close.
so then that means it's 8-bit, 10-bit, and then RAW is separate for
Yeah.
video. Okay. See, I'm learning something there because I wasn't too good with the
Mhm.
video side of things. It's only I do these YouTube videos, but it's always good to see that side of things. So, is there an alternative to RAW? Is there one above that for now, or is that where
Not there's
8K
nothing
comes
really
from?
above it. What raw is there's different media codecs. There's like MP4, there's
Yeah.
AVI, then there's like MOV. These are
Yes.
just different like think of
Ah,
them as
okay.
different
Mm,
cups for what do you call it, drinks to be held in.
okay.
Whereas raw is just like the pitcher that you're pouring from. If you have the entire pitcher, you can do whatever you want with it. But
Mm,
once you have the cup, you only have this much that you can work with.
yes. Mm,
So raw is essentially just that pitcher that you can pour whatever you want in, whatever you
yes.
want from it. And 10 bits just like little added all the little what do you call it, Kool-Aids that you put into the pitcher
Mm.
itself.
Okay, no, that's good. I think that was some of the main points covered nicely. So anybody looking for what 10-bit is, this would be a nice explanation, and it's actually helped me out quite a bit as well. So thanks for sharing that today, and hopefully we've got a few more of these to come, and we'll keep you as our resident expert really for video because you're a lot better than what I am. So I'm kind of happy that we are able to get you on and speak about this. We will link to Chris's channel in the description, so make sure to check him out. He's making some great content this year, and he's got some short films coming out as well. And there's some additional videos you can see here, which are the creative collaborations, and we'll see you on one of those.